And I was telling people how angry, how pained I am at even the very mention of the name Gowon. Up until this minute that I'm making the video, I am still very angry with Gowon. And I am not ready to step down from being angry with Gowon. And God of heaven knows that my anger is a righteous anger, just like every other typical Igbo man. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu broke down all these things. I made videos about these things. Every true Igbo person that has Igbo blood running in their veins will feel angry towards Gowon. But the cause to end the genocide against Christians in the Middle Belt, in Gowon's own enclave, in his backyard, in his village, that many of them will now get up and say, to hell with Gowon and his people. As a matter of fact, this is the repercussions for all their actions. This is their payback. This is God punishing them for what they did to Biafrans. And what that does to you psychologically is that Nnamdi Kanu carried it on his head. They said, oh, this is it. That's why we hate him. He's a traitor. He hates Nigeria. How come now even national news is carrying it in Nigeria? National newspapers, TV, everybody is talking about Aburi Accord. All of a sudden, it was allowed to come because they want to psychologically prepare you for a restructured Nigeria. That's a plan B. Just in case it has concluded that 2027 is not going to turn out the way I expect. So now we're going to end up with this one. Let us push for this. Before you know it, within the next 1 month alone, as recently as next 1 month, you will see them begin to make moves already on how to restructure Nigeria. The Westerners, the colonial powers who never wanted Nigeria to break, were the people who were responsible for what Gowon and his cronies did. They were the ones, because they didn't want Nigeria to break. The oil had just been discovered and it was concentrated in the eastern part of Nigeria where they didn't have a lot of love for the east, for Ojukwu. They knew that Ojukwu was a man who wanted something, who knew his right. And you couldn't play ball with such a person. You needed somebody who would be a stooge, a perfect puppet. And they found that in the other regions. They were not going to trust Ojukwu to play ball with them because the ball they wanted to play was that Ojukwu was going to allow them take every single thing and leave nothing for Nigerians.
Yes, if you are an Igbo man or anybody anywhere in the whole world, and if you are interested to know the game that is going on in Nigeria now, and also the game that was played before, then listen to this. You must not miss any part of this video. Yes, the video is coming from Joseph Okechukwu. You know him. Some of you here knows Joseph Okechukwu. So, but, oh boy, this video is mind-blowing. You are going to see the plans they have on ground. You are going to know why this Aburi Accord, why it resurfaces again. Because these guys, they are very strategic in their thinking. They have plan A, plan B, probably plan C. So, but we are going to see these plans that is on ground and why this Aburi Accord resurface. And they bringing out of Gowon's book and the subsequent BBC movie that is coming. We are going to see all these things. So let's go.
Hi everyone, I hope you're all doing great today. Okay, so I noticed, and that is not a surprise to me, that we are back again to speaking about Aburi, the Aburi Accord, which involved General Yakubu Gowon, late Odumegwu Ojukwu, and General Ankara of Ghana, right? And you know, whenever we talk about the Aburi Accord, the first thing that comes to mind is regional government, right? Restructured Nigeria. These are the terms, the words that jump into your head immediately you hear about Aburi, because this was what Aburi was meant to accomplish and it was agreed upon. Gowon, I don't even know, for whatever reason, has not been very upfront. He hasn't been able to tell people the full truth of what happened at Aburi. And it wasn't even like it's any big secret. It wasn't a secret. Everybody knows it was an agreement, it was an accord. It was signed. Ojukwu was excited. He was very ecstatic after that. And he was coming home and he was just ready to tell the whole world. In fact, he was even about to make concessions that he didn't even think he was going to make, because he was happy with the outcome of the meeting that took place in Ghana. When they came back to Nigeria, they completely deviated from that. I heard a man that I've never seen before. I heard him talking on social media, and he was talking about what happened with the Aburi Accord and how that Nigerians decided to just, sabotage it, which then led to the war that we fought, right? The brutal war that claimed millions, over 3 to 4 million Biafrans, right? But then they asked him a question and said, do you think that the Western powers influenced what happened, made Gowon and his cronies to, sabotage something they'd already agreed upon in Ghana? And he said no, that he didn't think. And that just basically got me to, understand how very ignorant most of our politicians are, even to the point of our so-called elders who are in power today, or those who had once been in power. Many of them are completely unaware of the international dimension of politics, right? They don't understand the meddling of the colonial powers. They don't understand the dimensions and dynamics of neocolonialism. They basically see politics just on face value, just the way it is played in Nigeria. They completely disconnect themselves from the actual sources of our problems in Africa, more so Nigeria. There is no way anybody will get up and say, oh, I don't think the Westerners were involved in what Gowon and his people did. No. The Westerners, the colonial powers who never wanted Nigeria to break, were the people who were responsible for what Gowon and his cronies did. They were the ones, because they didn't want Nigeria to break. The oil had just been discovered, and it was concentrated in the eastern part of Nigeria, where they didn't have a lot of love for the east, for Ojukwu. They knew that Ojukwu was a man who wanted something, who knew his right. And you couldn't play ball with such a person. You needed somebody who would be a stooge, a perfect puppet. And they found that in the other regions. They were not going to trust Ojukwu to play ball with them, because the ball they wanted to play was that Ojukwu was going to allow them take every single thing and leave nothing for Nigerians. And that is what is happening today. Why did Bola Ahmed Tinubu get a red carpet reception in Buckingham Palace? It was because his regime is one of the few regimes in recent memory that has literally given everything to the colonial powers and left nothing to Nigerians, which is why you have to borrow to even get a toilet paper in Nigeria. Everything has got to be borrowed, because your own wealth has been mortgaged to someone else who claims to own you. And that is a colonial power. In previous videos, I have told people how that Yahya Jammeh, of the former president of Gambia, was kicked out of power simply because he said he was not going to allow the colonial powers take a greater percentage of the resources in his country and give him royalty of 5%. When he said he would not do it, they told him, Mr. President, you should be happy, because if you took the 5% offer we're giving to you, would be one of about 3 countries in Africa, 3 or 2 countries in Africa that actually have up to 5% royalty from their natural resources. The rest of the countries in Africa have less than 4%. So imagine you have all the oil, you're the 6th largest oil exporter in the whole of Africa, if the whole world, and the royalty you get from the resources, the money that is made from that oil sales, is only about 3%. Think about this for 1 second, only about 3%. I also made reference to the wife of Sierra Leone president, who mentioned that what they are getting for the gold and diamond they are taking from their country, from the same colonial power that actually oversees Nigeria, that owns Nigeria, is just a fraction, 0 point something percent.
This is how nations are destroyed, and our political elders do not have this information. They don't know how these things work, and they are busy defending the colonial powers, completely ignorant. And if you have this ignorance, there's no way you are going to be able to help to bring about the change that we need to break away from the shackles of this neo-colonial slavery. So that is what happened with Aburi. It was 1000% the West. That's why when the war broke out, the same people who made Gowon to renege on what was agreed in Ghana in good faith actually came to help Nigeria to massacre Biafrans. That's what happened. It's in plain sight. It's in black and white. And today, people are debating it. So I just wanted to lay that record straight. But that's not even the main reason I'm making this video. The reason I'm making this video is to ask you a question and also provide you an answer. Why do you think Aburi all of a sudden has come up again? Do you know the answer? So, a lot of people do not know that Bola Ahmed Tinubu, you know, sometimes with us in Nigeria, we really know something, but we find it difficult to state it as it is. Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, is not the kind of man that you want to take power from him forcefully. He is the kind of person that when he holds on to something, he will rather die with it. But he's also very strategic. So don't think that that guy is a fool, right? He's not. There is something you must expect come 2027. And Bola has already gamed all of this because he has handlers. He has colonial handlers who are handling him, okay? Because he represents them in total. Nobody has been able to represent them in Nigeria like he has, right? I just explained that to you. But here's their plan. Their plan is this. They always have plan A, B, C, right? But I'm going to stop at B. The plan A is that they're going to sweep. You can see how they are manufacturing votes, right? Bola Ahmed Tinubu, I think he won by 8 million, with 8 million votes. Contested 8 million votes in 2023. But I hear that the primaries they just had, he has won by over 10 million votes. Only APC primaries. And then you saw what happened in Abia and all of those stupid shenanigans that these guys are playing, you know, because they're, of course, as far as they're concerned, Nigerians are now dumb, retarded, foolish. They don't deserve any truth or any decency or anything. So that's what they do, all they do. But Bola also believes, that's plan A, is that by 2027, they're going to generate all of that. And they're going to declare that he has won. The way it was done in 2023, probably even faster than they did in 2023. But there's a plan B. The plan B is if he looks into the future and sees that things might not turn out the way he is expecting, Bola will start within the next few weeks to plan for the suspension of the Constitution of Nigeria. And he'll want to do it legally, not illegally.
All right. That one is just a tip of the iceberg. We are going into the main cocoa, the main issue that we brought about this video for you to see. One thing is that when you guys see some of this important video, after watching, you forget completely to share the video. Social media has made things easier now that people become aware of what is happening faster and what is about to happen in future. That is the importance of social media. And people should leverage on this importance and, make life easier for themselves and the general public. Yes. Let's continue this video into the main, major issue why we are here.
Now, I say legally because Bola has got the Nigerian judiciary, the legislature, and of course the executive, which he sits atop, all of them in his pocket. And so what you're likely going to see is a situation where Mr. Tinubu says, the drums of war that I am hearing, they are growing louder and louder, and they're becoming more serious than I may have anticipated. And with the kind of movement I'm seeing on ground, it looks like we may not be able to pull off what we want to pull off in 2027, even with the help of foreigners. All right? In that case, rather than go to elections knowing that the only outcome would likely be war, civil war in Nigeria, because I said it in a previous video that I put out before, that for Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the North, the battle between him and the North, it is a lose-lose for him, because even if he wins convincingly and declares victory in 2027, the North will still say he rigged it and they will reject it. Even then, if he rigs it too and declares victory, the North will still reject it. I do not see any word in which the Northerners will accept any victory from Bola Ahmed Tinubu in 2027. So you will expect that by now they must have put so many measures in place to contest and, if possible, go violent as far as they can to make sure Bola does not claim that victory in 2027. And this man knows, he has intelligence, he has people everywhere. He knows that the die is cast. And he knows that if for any reason he allows himself to be moved out of power and the new regime comes into power, that all the stuff, the power that he has concentrated in the southwestern part of Nigeria will eventually begin to get deflated and get blown apart in bits. Because if you see what he has done, which is why so many people are angry with him, which is why Buhari has now become a saint to where he is that he has concentrated so much power, unashamedly so, in the southwestern part of Nigeria, in every aspect of governance, in every sector of government, in every aspect of our way of life. Tinubu has made sure that people from his ethnic group are the ones who dominate, and when they dominate from head to toe. I've never seen anything like that in my entire life in Nigeria. This is the first time we've seen, look at Buhari that we call jihadist. He was able to have a better federal character attitude towards governance in Nigeria. Unlike Tinubu, who is a southerner. Rather than even pull his southern brothers, say for instance, let's say this is now a battle between the north and the south. So let's say Tinubu gets all the south, southeast, southwest, only them in power, and leave the north. We'll now say, okay, this is a north-south divide. This one is, he made it a Yoruba thing. So he is going to be so terribly afraid of relinquishing power into the hands of even an Igbo man, say for instance, Peter Obi. Because Obi is going to have a northern vice president. So Peter, he does not trust that anybody will be able to take over from him and protect what he has stashed. In terms of materials, or whatever, or talent, or anything in the southwest, he does not trust anybody to do that. So what he is going to do is, it will be better for him that Nigeria is restructured so that Southwest will become the winner, the biggest winner. Because all the development he has now pumped into the Southwest, all the brain drain that has gone to the Southwest, all the resources that have been relocated to the Southwest, all of them will now get to stay. It will now be that Southwest has gotten their own fair share for all the sacrifices that they have made to the Nigerian nation, and that nobody is going to come to undo that. That is what is going to happen. And that's why you're going to hear people now talking about restructuring. So what you are hearing Aburi coming out now is almost like psychologically preparing, because Aburi had never been so well accepted in the media in Nigeria since it happened. Every time someone mentioned it, they will call you a traitor. Nnamdi Kanu carried it on his head. They said, oh, this is it. That's why we hate him. He's a traitor. He hates Nigeria. How come now even national news is carrying it in Nigeria? National newspapers, TV, everybody is talking about Aburi Accord. All of a sudden, it was allowed to come because they want to psychologically prepare you for a restructured Nigeria. That's a plan B. Just in case it has concluded that 2027 is not going to turn out the way I expect. So now we're going to end up with this one. Let us push for this. Before you know it, within the next 1 month alone, as recently as next 1 month, you will see them begin to make moves already on how to restructure Nigeria. They've already told you about state police, right? But now you will see proper restructuring. The East, the West, the North, you will see it happen before your eyes, so that nobody comes after Tinubu to come and take over. One Yoruba man made a video recently. I saw that video at an event. The guy was screaming almost like his eyeballs were bulging out. He was saying, we have to be careful, oh, we have to be careful. We must be careful. If Yoruba loses power, Yoruba is finished. Yoruba is finished. Yoruba is finished. He was saying it in a video. I don't know if I can still lay my hands on that video. I saved it somewhere. And you think Tinubu doesn't know that? He knows. He knows. So it's either he comes back for his second term to then execute the final nail on the head of the power relocation from the north to the west, or the process will begin now. Those of you who follow me on YouTube know that I have already broken it down and told you what really happened, how that the northerners upset the British colonial powers who handed the power over to them and made them the overlords, right? And made them the holders of the Union Jack, the holders of the colonial torch in Nigeria. They called them the final race. So they made them the holders, the representatives, the faces of colonialism in Nigeria. But then when suddenly they saw what happened in the Sahel, they realized, oh my goodness, I think we're better off with Russia. And then that protest happened that time. And there were Russian flags all over the north. The British panicked. They got so angry. And they were like, you know what? We're no longer safe with these guys. I think they have entered into the Russian trap. We need to move our power structure now and give it to the West so that the Westerners will hold it. And that is what Tinubu has been trying to activate and actualize. And the North, having been the holders for a very long time, are extremely irate, upset, and they are ready. It's going to be a suicide mission, and you know the North is not alien to suicidal movements. So they don't care whether they die. For them, it's a matter of life and death. A northerner that you see today and talk to him about Tinubu and Nigeria, they will tell you clearly that he's a one-term president. They don't even think about it twice. And what they will do, you won't know it now until you get close to the elections. And Tinubu will know that. So that's why I'm just telling you now. Because you know, when it comes to any intelligence operation, that's where I have my own, okay? I'll keep it at that. I will tell you, I will break it down for you, and I will help you to understand it. That why Aburi is back again is so that you will begin to prepare yourself psychologically for a restructured Nigeria, which means that we are almost inevitably headed for a restructured Nigeria, a dismembered Nigeria. The British would rather that the North is cut off than that we are together with them and let them take power again, because eventually they will still align with Russia. We are headed for a very, very long journey, a very big thing. And I think at the end of the day, it's going to be for the good of all of us. And may that be the case. God bless you.
I'll keep you posted.
You see the game they are playing. The worst part of it is that the area where these resources is being gotten from is not witnessing anything significant to compare with where they are pumping these monies. What are the major structures? What are the things you see that you will say yes in the southeast where this oil is coming from, or south? You will say yes, that the government is doing well. But they will take the resources and go and pump it somewhere else, pump it every other place, with the help of the colonial masters. Because they are the ones, if you listen very well to Joseph, some people, we know that they have hand in it, but the way he explained it, gave it a very clear, route. You see how these things are happening because of their interests. And it keeps happening up to today. That's why they go to Chatham House to get clarification before you become the president. Yes. Well, we are going to show you the deepest part of this video. The deepest part of it is the one you are going to watch now. So let's go there.
And so, guys, in conclusion, let me give us another dimension to the distraction that Aburi is potentially likely to bring. I have just explained to you in that two-part video the deeper political dimensions to why Aburi resurfaced. But let me try my best to give you an idea or a sneak peek into the psychological and maybe emotional dimension of the level of distraction that Aburi could potentially throw up, and how potentially dangerous and devastating that could be to you and I, especially if you are a Christian. Hear me out, okay? You see, Aburi Accord is about two arrowheads, two figures. One is late, one is alive. The one that is alive, his name is General Yakubu Gowon. General Yakubu Gowon is from Plateau State, one of the hardest hit regions in this ongoing Christian genocide that is taking place in Nigeria. It is in the north central part of Nigeria. We call them the Middle Belt. The people at the forefront of the campaign to stop the Christian genocide in Nigeria are Igbos, because Igbos are predominantly Christians. We are about 98% Christian in Igbo land, in eastern Nigeria. And so, understandably, we have been championing this cause. We have literally owned it, because we know that the enemy that is intent on wiping out the Christians of the Middle Belt, that the moment he succeeds, that the next place he's turning to will be eastern Nigeria, where we have a higher concentration of Christian believers who have historically resisted the proliferation of Islam up until this day, unlike any other region in Nigeria. So now here is the kicker. You need to pay attention to this. The kicker here is that this whole Aburi is likely has all the potentialities of throwing up sentiments, old sentiments, that still reside within every typical true Igbo man or woman alive today. The sentiment that if Yakubu Gowon had adhered to what was agreed in Accra, the accord that was agreed so that there will be regional government, so that this war will be averted, that we wouldn't have gone to war and we wouldn't have lost over 4 million of our own people. The pain remains in our hearts. Our fathers carried that pain to their graves, and we that are alive are still carrying the pain. Why would such a thing happen to us? Why did Gowon allow himself to be used for something like this? So what that could do now is that Igbo people who are even championing the cause to end the genocide against Christians in the Middle Belt, in Gowon's own enclave, in his backyard, in his village, that many of them will now get up and say, to hell with Gowon and his people. As a matter of fact, this is the repercussions for all their actions. This is their payback. This is God punishing them for what they did to Biafrans. And what that does to you psychologically is that it disconnects you psychologically from the pains and the sufferings of those Christians who are being massacred right now in that part of the world where Gowon comes from. So, if some of you who are active on social media had paid attention, you would have noticed there was a time not long ago that a guy from Benue was talking about how that they killed our people. Even when our people were able to escape from the far north and were running home, the guys from Benue stopped them and massacred them. And if you know the history of how the war happened, we have seen people who made open confession that most of those who actually killed our people, the Biafrans, were actually Middle Beltan, of Middle Beltan origin, right? So when you look at all of that and put it together, you find out that the enemy that is after our souls as Christians in Nigeria may have gotten us where it hurts the most. The temptation to get into the fray and start getting sentimentally disconnected from what is happening in the Middle Belt is very high. If you are able to resist it, you are a very smart and intelligent person. And that's what I want you to become today. Smart and intelligent. Don't let yourself be drawn into this temptation. Because if we allow this temptation to catch up with us and say to hell with Gowon and his people, in fact, let them die in their thousands. We don't care anymore. And we say we're no longer carrying out this campaign. Let the Christians there die. They killed us after all. They deserve what is coming on them. Mark my words. That same enemy that is destroying them, the moment they finish, sure enough, they're going to come for you and I. And so this is no time for us to act in this way. We know that Gowon misbehaved. We know that Gowon acted. Listen, let me just be, because I always speak my mind. Years ago, I made a video about Gowon. It was trending. The video did trend, right? And I was telling people how angry, how pained I am at even the very mention of the name Gowon. Up until this minute that I'm making the video, I am still very angry with Gowon. And I am not ready to step down from being angry with Gowon. And God of heaven knows that my anger is a righteous anger, just like every other typical Igbo man. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu broke down all these things. I made videos about these things. Every true Igbo person that has Igbo blood running in their veins will feel angry towards Gowon. But let me tell you that the people who used Gowon to bring about the death of our compatriots, our ancestors, they are not yet done because they did not meet 1/10 of their goals for starting the Biafran war. The goal was to eliminate all of us. The goal was to wipe us off completely. Unfortunately, they didn't meet the goal even halfway. And now they want to continue from where they left off. And this is why they've started with this Christian genocide. If they say let every Christian die in Nigeria, no single Igbo man will be alive, because the ones who are not Christians amongst us it's just like a sprinkle. Almost everybody in Igbo land is a Christian. This is who we are. So when we hear Christian genocide, there's this instinctive spontaneous reaction that we give to it, because we know we are the number one target. Even though it's starting from another region, we are going to be the main target. So let us not be weary in doing good, in protecting and standing for our brothers and sisters. Let us still have that spirit of forgiveness as we push to right the wrongs of the past, because as long as I live and as long as any true Igbo man is alive, we must make sure that the right thing is done. If Gowon refused to do it, it will be done in our lifetime. I told you people many times that this thing they didn't give us then, they will give it to us if I won't leave this earth unless it has happened. And so that's not my concern. We are putting measures and things in place to make sure that happens. But now, don't let the temptation, don't let yourself fall into the trap of saying to hell, let them kill them, we don't care. If you do that, beloved, if you do that, take it from your beloved brother who loves you. Those people will laugh, and after laughing, they will show us pepper. They will come for me and you. They will destroy our land. They will flood that place with repentant demons who have been trained to go and kill us. And the same way they killed us in the past, they will do it this time, but they will do it worse. So let's not be weary in doing good. In due course, God will pay them for their evil works. God bless you.
All right. I believe that this video have made your day, like I promised you. I did not fail in my promise, and that is how we roll. Well, do help us to share this video and like this video. Drop your comments. Let's hear what you think about this particular video. And without wasting much time, I am still Chinedu till I come your way next time.